Hi, everyone. It's Amanda Rieger Green. Welcome to Soul Sessions. I'm officially here in Ecuador. It has been a transit, a trek, a journey, all the things. And I have certainly been moving through a threshold lately, one that feels heavy, sacred, transformative all at once. And what's really stood out to me is the people, the friends, the family, the kindred spirits. So many of you who have reached out and simply held space for us during this transition. The care and the energy and attention is not lost on me. It's been quite sacred, actually. And today, one of the things that I do want to reflect on is some things that are important to my heart and some revelations I've had through this journey that I hope resonate with you and you can find that synergy in your own life and personal experiences. With people showing up, this transition, of course, was a big one. It wasn't just a regular move. We liquidated everything, as many of you know, our belongings, our cars, lots of personal effects, and we came with the luggage on our backs and, of course, our 2 dogs. But it literally took a village, and it took a Tetris of logistics, but it took a village, and so many people showed up in ways that almost flabbergasted me. Not that I was expecting people to show up or not show up, but it was very touching. And people showed up not because they had to, but because they wanted to express their care and support. And one of the things that it really clarified for me in my being is how I show up for people. And of course, I intend to be intentional and I've slowed down over the years. I recognize that I value enriching, engaging, intimate relationships and I've been very clear in that in the past probably 6 or 8 months that what I love is intimacy and enrichment, especially, like, quality time. And it's funny because my love languages, when my husband and I did those, over a decade ago when we were getting married, mine are acts of service and gifts, and I think I've shared this before because I feel like I always have to do a disclaimer on it because acts of service and gifts kinda come one like, hand in hand for me because somebody can get me something small and minute, and it's both an act of service and a gift. It's not about the extravagance of a gift or receiving things. It's more the intention behind it or the thoughtfulness. I had a friend, months ago who bought me a water bottle, and I had been saying, "I need a new water bottle," and she heard that, and she gifted me a water bottle. And to me, it was like, "Oh my gosh." Like, I didn't buy one, you got one for me, and it makes it all the more special because every time I use it, I think of her. So, things like that have really clarified for me in the last handful of months of my life, and I saw that reflected back with the people in my life and mine and Dennis's life and in our dog's life as we set out on this big adventure and closed multiple chapters of life and ways of living. And I just want to say a big thank you. But also, I've asked myself, am I intentional? When I think about people, am I reaching out? Am I expressing care and love or support? And also with healthy boundaries, right? That's one of the things that I've learned is I don't offer to do something if I don't have the capacity or the space to do it. So sometimes it's just a text message or a phone call or a tiny little note to say, "Hey, I'm thinking about you. I'm here for you." Without saying, "I've got a lot on my plate. I can't pick up the phone and talk right now." I don't have to make those excuses, but my language emanates my heart, but also the space and capacity I have. And I received so many acts of intentional enrichment and kindness. And for me, it really was this reflection on something I have been contemplating and intentional about. I just want to highlight a few things from people because it feels important for me to share this. But once we closed on our house, we stayed with our friends Chip and Jess for 3 nights with our dogs, and they have 3 little dogs and 2 cats, and of course, we have a Doberman and then, a mixed breed, and they let us stay at their home for those 3 days, and it was a wild 3 days getting Dennis out. The dogs had to be driven to Denver, Colorado, because they couldn't fly out of Texas because of the heat, and so we got Dennis off, and then the pet courier came, and they helped me through that, and that was emotional, of course, and also logistical, but they opened their home to us, and I realized not only was I just, like, blown away by just how friends are caring and opening and loving, expecting nothing in return, right? But also, like, I needed their help. With Dennis gone and getting the dogs out, I needed Chip and Jess. I needed Jess nurturing and emotionally supporting me, and I needed Chip's masculine energy of, "Let's get these crates. Let's get it together. Let's talk to the guy. Let's ask questions. Let's get the dogs." They picked the dogs up at like 10:30 at night, and we were all exhausted that day, and Dennis was gone. He had already arrived in Ecuador, and we are here getting the dogs out. So you can just imagine just the comedy and delirium of it all, but I needed them, and they gave their love and attention, and that stuff is, like, invaluable. It's like the richness. It's where I feel rich, and I'm not talking about money and bottom lines. I'm talking about rich within myself, and I think through this eclipse season and this massive climax in the numerology, especially as we transition through the remainder of September and into the fall, into October, it is it's an intentional time, making intentional time and space and also receiving it, seeing how care shows up in your life, but also recognizing your own capacity and how you communicate that or recognize your capacity to care for others or to receive care. A few of my friends gave me all these little gifts for my journey, and everyone who gave me little gifts gave me little gifts, right? They were big gifts, but they were small in size because they knew I was just carrying cargo and luggage. And I really do want to shout out to some of those sweet gifts because what they all ended up being were these incredible talisman. And a talisman is like a token that carries energy, something that is unique or special to you that has an energy. And it could be a photograph of you with your grandparents when you were younger, or it could be someone's ring or jewelry or a coffee cup that your grandmother had. I don't know why I keep alluding to grandparent energy, but I've been feeling my grandparents so much through this transition. But talisman, they carry energy and they carry magic. And I feel like every gift that I was given, they were like these talisman, these tokens to carry me through. Two different people gave me a piece of tiger's eye. Two different people in different communities and environments I know said, "Oh, I have a little gift I wanna give you," and both of them gave me a little tiny bag with a small piece of tiger's eye in it. Those are the only crystals I received for my journey by 2 different people, and that was not lost on me. Tiger's eye is such a great stone, I think, for eclipse season, for the energy we're using right now, but the fact that 2 people gave that to me because tiger's eye is truly about transmutation. Not so much alchemy, but transmutation. It's transmuting energy and moving from a place of courage and boldness and adventure while detoxing heaviness, sludge, debris. So it was the tiger's eye was so aligned, and it's funny because I had to give away so many of my precious crystals. We did keep a few things in a storage unit, but I have so many crystals throughout the years that are all special to me and have magic and I have relationships with, but it was time for me to pass that energy along. But it was funny when I was actually packing to come here, I had to be really choosy with the crystals that I brought. And of course, there were a few non-negotiables for me, and then some that are in storage that were just too heavy or delicate to bring on this trip here. But it's funny because I also found a tiger's eye little sphere, a little ball, and it was in one of my plants. I put it in one of my plants to give the plant good energy, and I saw it and I thought, "I gotta have this tiger's eye," and I had already tucked that sphere of tiger's eye away in my luggage before those 2 individual people gave me the tiger's eye. And so, of course, I'm working with tiger's eye right now and keeping it close to my heart, but I truly believe that trifecta of tiger's eye and those other women's energy who gifted that to me, it worked. It helped because, of course, this has been heavy and logistical, but also it's been easy and magical, and that transmutation feels like it has happened. I can hear Slim, our Doberman, barking in the background, so we're in an Airbnb right now, and I'm making things work. It's a little bit different here, so if you hear any noise or background noise, it's a temporary thing, and we're settling in. Another friend gifted me a Pilates mat for the reformer. And it's funny because I'm here. I haven't taken Pilates yet. We haven't had a moment to breathe. I know there are Pilates studios and they're all in Espanol, which I have been practicing my Spanish because I am in this total immersion of newness. And Spanish is imperative here. It is the language here and the primary language. People speak some broken English, but I'm having to practice it. But she gave me this great mat that goes on top of the Pilates reformer, and what I love about it is it's really cool, the mat itself, it's kinda badass, and then, like, I look really elevated with the mat, like I'm a legit Pilates person, which I am a legit Pilates person. You know that I love Pilates, but it's also like she was saying, "Here's a mat, and you take this with you because you're gonna do Pilates there no matter what, no matter the language barrier. You're gonna find studio, and you're also gonna find new community through your Pilates," which my Pilates community was huge. And speaking of Pilates community, my Pilates community threw me this huge party, and I was exhausted by the time I showed up at the party. I had taken my last Pilates class. We were closing on the house the next day. I had to get more stuff out of the house that evening, but I was so overwhelmed by people and the love. And 2 different people at my Pilates studio gave me little oracle decks. And the funny thing about that is you all know that I have collected oracle decks through the years. I gave a bunch away, and I did not bring a single oracle deck with me. I left the few that I love in storage. That was a huge decision for me because I loved my oracle decks, but I decided new ones would come in, and sure enough, one of my friends gave me an oracle deck, and it's basically saying, "You're an effing badass," and all the cards you pulled, it's not an oracle deck, it's more like an affirmation deck. But it says you're an effing badass, and every card you pull has some kind of cuss word in it, but about how courageous or bold or sexy or brilliant you are. They're more cheeky cards, and I loved that because it basically was saying, "You have to remember to laugh every day, Amanda, and that's the oracle you need to guide you." And then on the flip side of that, there's a gentleman named Rick that did Pilates with all the women, and he is retired. He had gone through a bunch of health crisis, and he started doing Pilates with us in our really difficult classes, and we love him, we appreciate his energy in there, but we're also so amazed by the fact that he's been doing Pilates, gotten stronger in different ways, and he would always make these jokes about how the guys at the gym don't even know how hard Pilates is until they do it. But when I got to the party, he wasn't at the party, but there was a gift bag from him, and he had given me again, this is so mind-blowing in terms of the gifts that I received that replaced things that I either gave away or chose to leave behind. He gave me this little clear jar of scripture, of Bible verses, and they're so cool, and I have it right here. I'm actually gonna show y'all because 'cause I've got it on the desk. It says, "Read this when," and they're scripture based, but it says, "Read when so they're color coordinated, and they say, "Read when you're happy, thankful, frustrated, anxious, sad, troubled," and it's got a Bible verse. The day before, first of all, how kind is that? And he wrote me this note saying, to take my faith with me in my journey, and hopefully these would provide. anything I needed, any kind of nourishment emotionally for whatever mood I was in or seeking. But the day before that, my grandmother had this little clear depression glass jar, that pink depression glass, and it had all these cards in it, and they had a scripture verse on one side and then a quote from someone famous, like a poet, like Emerson or Thoreau or some kind of, political leader or whatever on the an author on the back of the card, and I had those in my office, and I would pull one every now and then because they were old and they were my grandmother's. But when I left, I actually put those in storage. Of course, I did not get rid of them, but I felt like I didn't need to take these with me. I couldn't. And then a day later, I show up and somebody gifts me a very similar gift and an unexpected person, like a dude to give a gift. And it was not like, don't get all creepy vibes over there. It's not like that. Like this guy made an impact. He motivated and encouraged me, but how kind and thoughtful for a guy to give a sweet and faithful and faith-based gift to me. Like, things like that. Everything that people gave me just felt like a token and a talisman to take with me. But the one thing I wanna touch on today that is, like, magical and mythical and significant that I think will relate back is this. I have a tattoo on my back. I have one tattoo, and I got that tattoo in Sedona in 2016, and it was a very intentional tattoo. And I'm laughing about it because my mom was like, "You're getting a tattoo?" She had all her judgment around that, and I'm all about tattoos and people with tats. My husband is tatted up, and I love it. I think he looks like a badass. I'm not one to get them all over my body, but I remember before we went to Sedona, I told Dennis, I said, "While we're in Sedona, I'm gonna get a tattoo." And he's like, "Okay, what are you gonna get?" And I was like, "I don't know, but I'll know when we're in Sedona." And we went to this museum. We were in Flagstaff and on this trip, and we were in this, Zuni Indigenous museum, and we were walking through, and I saw this gorgeous piece made out of ivory spondylus. Spondylus was something that the a lot of the indigenous traded with in South America, and spondylus is like a coral. This gorgeous Zuni piece, it had spondylus, it had ivory, it was made out of ivory, spondylus, onyx, and there was some turquoise in it and maybe one other stone, but it was this figure that was this rounded figure, and I remember the moment I saw it, I knew it. I didn't know what it was, what it meant logically, consciously. I'd never read about it, encountered it, seen the image before in my waking life or experiences up to then. But when I saw it, it was like, "Oh my gosh, that's me. I know that." And what it was what's called a rainbow warrior or a rainbow serpent. And in many indigenous cultures, not just North American indigenous, but South American and Aboriginal cultures, the rainbow warrior or the rainbow serpent energy denotes this symbol of bridging cultures and the reminder of the keepers of the earth and those who would return to the earth one day. And this is ancient cross-cultural similar mythology, these beings who would return to Earth, uplift consciousness, and help the planet remember its own vibration. It it resonated with me so deeply, and I remember I took a picture of the image, and then I, like, searched it, and I read a little bit about whatever was, on the caption at the museum, that it was a rainbow warrior, a rainbow serpent, and I did some research, and then when I read about it, I was like, "Of course I resonate with this." Like the rainbow warrior, someone who would come and lift up consciousness, change vibration. There are many of us out there, and this prophecy, this mythology is coming to life and activating in us now. So I got my tattoo, and the cool thing about my tattoo, it's on my back right shoulder, and I had the tattoo done in Sedona, and my tattoo is in clay from the vortexes in Sedona, and I had it touched up about a year and a half ago, Dennis and I went to Sedona just for a little trip away, and we got out to Sedona, and I had the same tattoo artist who Dennis and I met, who we jived with. He touched up my tattoo and he remembered it, and we put, more clay, more vortex energy of Sedona in it. But I remember when I had it touched up last year or so, I remember saying, I'm infusing this energy back into my life. Like I am a rainbow warrior. I am a rainbow serpent. The rainbow serpents and warriors are out there. That those of us who were remembering in our cells and our DNA, our personal resonance, that we are awakening. The collective is awakening. Our consciousness is awakening to this universal archetype and energy. And I remember getting it redone and thinking, like, I want this to be my life. Like, I've known it, I've lived it, but I wanna live this archetype. So flash forward to a couple of weeks before Dennis and I left. I was at Pilates one day, and this woman that I practice Pilates with, and I might tear up a little bit just because, again, like, gosh, people blow me away, and, like, the care that you receive, from people who are so intentional. Like, I just hope that I'm that intentional, right? Anyway, my friend Delilah, she's in her 70s. She is a retired principal and superintendent, and she does Pilates like a badass, right? Like, that's what I love about Pilates. I think everybody's a badass, and it makes me feel like a badass. But she and I practice Pilates twice a week together in the same really hard classes, and I just adore her, right? Well, I get to Pilates one day and she said, I have a little something for you because they belong to you. They're for you. She said, they were mine, but she said, I don't wear them. And like, she says, you have to have them. And she gave me a little gift bag. And in the gift bag were these two earrings, and they're Zuni earrings of rainbow serpents. And I'm wearing them right now. If you're watching on YouTube, you can see these a little bit. So you can see. But the beautiful thing about him is she loves, like, kind of an orchidy purple, and these have this orchid purple on the top. Like, she gifted these to me and she said, "I've had these for years. I don't remember where I got them." She said, "But they match your tattoo and they belong to you for this journey." I mean, this is really specific, right? Who has a pair of rainbow serpent earrings? And these are like big clunky earrings, right? Like they're a statement piece for sure. I mean, they're tribal, they're beautiful, they are old. I mean, these are definitely very old. They're silver and they have all these precious gems in them. But she said, "They're for you," and she said, I don't wear these, but I've had them, and they're for you for this journey." And she had no idea that I had been, over the last year, really necessarily what I talk about on my podcast, what I do for work, what I do professionally out, in the world. I mean, she knows a little bit about my work, but she doesn't know, like, the depth and the significance of the rainbow warrior and serpent in my life and my journey. But it was like, it just said to me, "You're on the path. You are the serpent. You are the rainbow warrior." And I want to talk a little bit about us as rainbow warriors and some of the significance and meaning behind it, to see how you can maybe relate this in your life right now in terms of what you're experiencing and calling in your own power and your energy and your consciousness, grounding that energy into your present moment, even when things are challenging and difficult and you've got eclipse season and beginnings and endings. I know we're all experiencing that. But the rainbow warrior is a harbinger of renewal. It's here to remind us that our human experience is sacred, but we also have this sacred duty to the planet and to each other. It represents light, color, frequency, the rainbow as an energetic signature of unity, diversity, and higher vibration. Of course, it connects with the energy of the chakras and light. In Australian and Aboriginal roots and lore, the Rainbow serpent was seen as this creator being that shaped the land, the waterways, life forms, and embodying the sacredness of water and life. And you know how I talk about water and how powerful water is, that we're made up of water. Water is part of our DNA. Water is in and around us. We need water to hydrate, to clarify, talking to our water, how profound that is. The rainbow serpent was connected to water and to life in the ancient Aboriginal Australian culture. It also symbolizes fertility, transformation, and the cyclical nature of creation across time, both like a mythic and a living presence. I hope I'm not losing you all here, but to me, it rings true to so much of what I've been sharing with you all and feeling and how connected it is to this one myth, this one symbol, and how it's shown up in my life. Rainbow serpents in Aboriginal culture also represent guardians, guardians of the spiritual realm and the passages in our earthly thresholds, guiding communities and guiding us through transitions and rites of passage. I mean, that's so mind-blowing and cool in North and South American indigenous cultures. So, yes, like the Zuni were really big in the rainbow serpent and the rainbow warrior, and so were some of the other North American indigenous tribes, but also in South America, it's connected to the Incan culture, which is where I am here in Ecuador, which is very Incan, by the way. Being here, there are so many people who live in very much their Incan culture. They dress that way. They have the most badass hats too, by the way. When Dennis and I were driving through the Andes Mountains to get here to Cuenca, we've done it twice now, and it's arduous, but it's also, I mean, stunning. But you drive through all this farmland, and that's where a lot of the more native indigenous people still live, and they, of course, have these beautiful ponchos that are wool and woven that they weave, but they have the most badass wool hats, like and they have to because it's pretty chilly, up in the mountains and in the Andes, and I was like, "Gosh, I need a hat." Like, I need a hat, and I'm not gonna just buy a hat. A hat will come to me when it's time, and I know it'll be hip, trendy, and cool, but it'll also be sacred and true, and maybe I'll be gifted an authentic Incan hat. But back to the rainbow serpent. In North American and indigenous cultures alike, across the Americas, essentially, the rainbow warrior is connected with the energy of Earth's ley lines and cosmic consciousness, and that we are bridging and activating these ley lines on Earth. And in Incan and Andean traditions, which is where I am now in becoming integrated into and also thrown into the frying pan of this culture, the rainbow serpent represents multidimensional awareness. And the serpent motif, instead of just because it's like if you Google this or look up the rainbow serpent or warrior, you'll see it's like a person that has like this long body with like legs on both end. It's really kind of awkward looking, but you'll get the visual if you look it up. But it represents Kundalini energy and also cyclical time, just like the Aborigines, cyclical time, timelines, but it also mirrors creation and destruction cycles. And as you all know, right now, things are breaking down. Our infrastructure, our world, our systems, our politics, geopolitics, the physical earth is erupting right now. There's destruction going on and at mass and unprecedented levels, but it also there's this creation that is happening. Gifts and talents and consciousness and awareness and abilities are coming through. And this rainbow serpent carries that symbolism, this this bridge between terrestrial time, material, linear 3D time, and celestial time, multidimensional time. And I just wanted to emphasize this and also have you reflect back for your own life What is coming into alignment for you? What is being reflected back in your life? What are you here for? What do you stand for? And how do you demonstrate that? We are in this threshold of imprinting where we're anchoring in new vibrational codes in collective consciousness. And it's rough. It's hard because every moment there feels like a breakthrough, there also feels like there's a breakdown. Or when the breakthrough happens, or the idea, or the insight, or something clicks, then like the fear or the doubt, those things arise. And being able to fuse that polarity of energy together to transmute it and to really be a reflection of who you are out in the world, but also noticing how other people reflect back your energy field to you. And you know that this is what I'm going to follow that up with is sometimes we get reflected back beauty and love and kindness. And other times we get reflected back anger or frustration or bitter truths or just rude ass people, people who aren't intentional. And I've really learned, especially the last few weeks, that anything that is coming up in my field that is true and loving and kind and intentional, to absorb that, to receive it in grace and presence. But when the harsh side of life and people and stuff happens, to also not so much absorb it, but to take a hard look at my own actions and where I maybe fall short or am impatient or dismissive or incommunicado, whatever it may be, being able to really look at the polarity of what is reflected back to me and to either become more aware and intentional and heal those dark spots within, which are just human frailty. I don't, if I'm dismissive and I'm typically not dismissive. That's not really a character trait that I hold on to much of. But I know that sometimes I forget to reach out to people or I get so mired down in my own stuff and life and things that I'll think about somebody and then 3 days goes by and I haven't reached out, and then I'm kicking myself for not reaching out or thinking I'm a bad person because I didn't reach out, and I should have more time, and I should be kinder, but sometimes I just don't have the capacity, and so sometimes it's just beaming someone light or a prayer, not even reaching out, but being able to look at the shadow and then quickly transmute it. But the rainbow serpent, also the symbolism, it talks about imprinting collective responsibility, that what we're here for now and what we're doing now, and I fundamentally, like, believe this with every fabric of my being, is that, yes, I am growing, evolving, healing, shifting, becoming, and it's very personal, right? I'm dealing with the personal aspects of myself and my life and the people around me and whatever environments I'm encountering. But I'm here for the bigger, the collective, something bigger. And when I can get out of my small little mind, me, I, the ego dissolves a little bit more. And I'm like, but I'm really here because we're here on this tidal wave of conscious evolution. Like we're here now for something bigger. And if you're listening to this podcast and you're drawn to it, you're here for something bigger. Yeah, you have all the you know what on your plate and the stuff and the decisions and the life and the change. 'Cause we all do, right? And it's flipping hard. It's hard ass stuff that we walk through. It's life on life's terms. But when I step back, I'm like, but whatever I'm growing through right now, and I'm gonna repeat that, whatever I'm growing through right now, it's not just about Amanda. It's about anchoring in new light and new presence. It's about being and embodying the rainbow serpent, the mythic archetype of the rainbow warrior. So maybe some things to think about in what I've shared today. I hope this resonates and gives you a little bit more insight into my journey, and I didn't wanna harp too much about my transition because I know I've shared that with you all, and there's so many wild stories and miracles I could share, but for you, What small objects or moments in your life are talisman? What in your life carries energetic significance? And how can it serve as a reminder of your own higher resonance? So it can be a memory that you hold dear. I have a lot of those, right? That transport me back in time to safety or security or love or freedom, play, wonder. I think a lot of my grandparents when I think of those moments in their home in Lake Charles, Louisiana, their fig tree in the backyard. Like that's a talisman. Okay. Like a memory can be a talisman. It doesn't have to be a physical object, but what physical objects do you have that carry energetic significance? And how can you honor them, hold them dear, connect with that energy, and it serve as this resonant energy in your energy field that you are beaming out? Also, when I speak about reflection and mirrors and learning through other people, a question or a reflection for us all might be who in your life has reflected back your own light, even in small ways. And we're gonna push aside the darkness, right, for a minute, the human frailty business. Take some time to think about who in your life demonstrates how much they love, appreciate you, recognize you, see you, because that's what I've felt recently, and it's been, like, so loving and so uncomfortable to be seen, right? To really be seen in all my mess and all my glory, but just to be loved no matter what through it. Who in your life does that for you? And maybe it hasn't happened in the last couple of weeks or so because eclipse season's been wacko. Maybe it was 8 months ago something comes to you. It doesn't matter when it is, but who in your life has really gifted you the gift of being seen, reflected back your own light, and how can you return that energy back? Whether it's to them intentionally, to thank them, to recognize them, or to pay it freaking forward. Let me tell you something else really cool that I'd be really remiss if I didn't share it because probably out of all the things, this was like the biggest moment of grace and love that I experienced. And again, I'm getting teary and I'm sorry if I'm a little weepy. It's probably because I'm still here and running on, just change energy, but it's also just light filtering through my body and I can feel it. I sold my car, I don't know, about 6 or so weeks before we moved. So Dennis and I were sharing his truck. And when I did, and I don't think I shared this on the podcast, but maybe I did, but if if I shared it, I'm going to share it again. My stepson, who is 2 years older than me. Okay, most of you know Dennis is my husband is much older than I am and all the things, and yes, I've done all of the Freudian psychoanalysis on that and daddy issues and all of it. Yes, you don't even have to go there with me. I've been there, done that, get it, and Dennis is a divine partner in my life. Like, we are connected on a multitude of ways, but I have 4 stepchildren, and 2 of them are older than me. One of them is a year older than me, and the other one is a little over 2 years older than me. I mean, it's just wild, but anyway, when I met my stepson for the first time, and this is like 11 or 12, like 12 years ago. He's just a cool guy, and he made a joke, and he's like, "Oh, are you my new mommy?" That's how our first encounter met, and that's kinda how our relationship is, like, we're like friends, we're buds, but he's a really good guy and a cool guy, and I'm so grateful for him in my life, not as a stepchild, right? Like, not as a bonus child. He's like a bud, right? But anyway, when I sold the car, I was eating lunch with he and Dennis, his dad, and we were just chatting and connecting. He goes, "Oh, well, once you do sell the car, if you do sell the car, if you want to borrow my car, you can." And he has multiple vehicles. He's a card guy. He loves the car. He has his truck he drives during the week and he has a weekend vehicle, right? Like he's done really well professionally, but cars are his thing. But his weekend vehicle is like his baby, right? Like, it's, like, really precious. It's a really nice car. And he just said, "Yeah, like, when you sell the car, if you wanna just use my, you know, Range Rover limited edition, first edition, tricked out, whatever," he's like, "You can." And when he offered that, I remember I was, like, blown away because I didn't think about that. We were just gonna rent a vehicle if we needed it, but I would never have even thought about it or ask or it just didn't even come to mind. So just him offering that was like grace. But sure enough, he gave me his vehicle to drive to Houston and back because I went to go see my family, and I used it until the last minute. And he gave it to me, not his dad to use. His dad used it a little bit, but he let me, drive it and have it. And he's like, go have a blast in this vehicle. He's like, it's pretty badass. It's amazing. Have fun, use it. You need it, but also have fun. And I'll tell you what, do you know who drove me to the airport with my 5 big ass luggage bags in tow and walked me into the ticket counter because there's no way I could have gotten in? It was my stepson, Jason. Like, as I left and departed, like that sweet grace. And again, I share these things with you that have happened in my life that I don't take lightly. Like, I look at these gifts as richness, but also knowing that I have that kind of light in my field. And I thanked him profusely and also for his love and kindness, and that I couldn't repay that, and how loved I felt by that gesture and him getting me into the airport. He was like, "No, I'm parking and getting you in. You can't lug this stuff. We're parking. I'm walking you to the gate. I'm gonna get you to the airport. I wanna make sure you're safe," which was so kind, right? Again, to have that masculine presence and just that support and love from the most unlikely of places. But he also said to me when I thanked him, I was like, he said, "Well, you know what, Amanda, just pay it forward." He said, "Just pay it forward." And I was like, "I'm gonna do that, and I'm gonna pay it forward." So think about how you can pay things forward today. Even if you haven't received anything, what can you pay forward right now? Where can you have a random act of kindness, a gift of your presence, your energy, your time, just because why not? Pay it forward because that stuff imprints right now. And coming back to this kind of mythical archetype of the rainbow serpent and the energy of the ascension of consciousness. What symbolic mythic archetypes resonate with you right now? And that's a pretty big question I'm asking you because when you think about mythic archetypes, you can think about Gandalf or Dumbledore or Harry Potter or you know, King Arthur and the Knights of the Round Table or Guinevere. I mean, or you can go back to Greek and Roman mythology or indigenous mythology. Come up with an archetype for you that really feels like you are embodying. If you remember back at the end of 2024 and as we cross the threshold into 2025, my big theme was make it mythic, not apocalyptic. Come back to that statement and think of your life as myth. What archetype? Are you Mercury, the messenger of the gods? Are you Judas, the betrayer of Jesus? I mean, I'm being cheeky here when I say that, but you don't have to, unless you want to pick a dark character, because we know most of the villains in all of the stories have stories of their own. It makes me think of Wicked, right? The villains usually have a backstory too to where they became villains. And if you identify with that, and how are you using your power and your energy? But pick an archetype or two that you want to entrain with and read and explore and get into that energy and see how it meets your presence. So think about that. And in closing, just think about how you can send the frequency of love, clarity, and courage into the world today. How can you do that each and every day, and maybe more than once a day? Because the more you give away of your light and your energy, and within context and within your own capacity, not over giving because it's providing you value, giving just because it feels good to intimately connect or to give of your time, your intelligence, your presence, your value. How do you show up in this energetic service and pay it forward and trust that it's creating these ripples into the collective and into the field? So I would definitely take a moment to think of someone that you want to reach out to today with no obligation, but just resonance, and feel your own heart with them, imagining your own energy as the rainbow warrior flowing through you and lighting a path for somebody else on this planet, and knowing that your path is simultaneously illuminating too. Make this time mythic, make it sacred, and trust that all the roadblocks and potholes and struggles that you're encountering, big decisions you may have in your head and your heart, whether it's relationship related, job related, health related, spiritual and transformative in nature, know that that stuff is part of your bigger myth, your bigger story. And do you believe it? Do you know it? And how do you lead and live from that space? So until we meet again, hopefully the next time I record, I'll be a little bit more settled in some podcasting space, but I feel settled today and I feel true. And I'm so deeply grateful to all the people who have shown up to make this passage safe and magical in very stressful and challenging times for Dennis and I. But signing off from Cuenca, Ecuador, up in the heart of the Andes, it's Amanda Rieger Green with Soul Sessions. Be well, everyone.